Hey movie junkies, welcome back to Twin Flicks, where we always here celebrating the magic of movies and most importantly, physical media with you guys. Now, this is going to conclude my anime 4K comparison trilogy. I first did a comparison between the 4K and Blu-ray of Heavy Metal. If you haven't checked that out, the link will be at the end of this video. And I also took a look at Ghost in the Shell, the 4K UHD versus the Blu-ray. Now, there's a lot of controversy with this 4K UHD presentation where I've heard a lot of complaints about it. This is one of the worst 4K UHD presentations out there. So check out that video, and I did compare it between the Blu-ray, and let me know which do you think looks better, the 4K or the Blu-ray over in that video. Again, the link will be at the end of this video. So today we're going to conclude with what I consider the king of anime, and that is Akira. Now, there's a big controversy with this 4K UHD, and that is with the HDR. Now, Funimation, for some unexplainable reason, didn't send out, or mistakenly sent out copies that were in SDR. They did rectify that, and they sent out replacement copies the beginning of last year. But I still get emails, text messages, DMs from people asking me, well, I just bought this. How do I know if I have the right version? How do I know that this has the HDR on it or if it's a SDR? Because it doesn't say anywhere on the disc. Well, there's three ways to find out. Number one is if you live in the UK or if you live in parts of Europe, you already have the HDR version. My contact at Funimation did confirm with me that the only issue was in the US region that didn't have the HDR version. So that right there, that's an easy fix. If you're in the UK, if you're in Europe, you already have the HDR version, so you don't need to worry. But if you're here in the States, there are two other ways to find out. Number one way, when you put in the disc, press display on your remote, and the information pops up right there. If it says HDR, then you're good to go. You have HDR. If it doesn't say HDR, or if it says SDR or nothing at all, then obviously you don't have HDR. A second way to find out is if you don't have this box set. If you just bought the standalone version that's just like this, it's just the case. That is HDR. All of those are HDR because they were reproduced and sent out as a standalone version since these were limited and no longer in print. So those are the ways to find out if you have the correct HDR version or not. And if you have any more questions, you can leave your comments down below. I also did a video really detailing all about this in my 4K Blu-ray review playlist. So if you want to check that out, I think I'll leave a link up here, but if you want to check it out, just look through my playlist. But today we're going to compare the differences here between this 4K UHD and the Blu-ray, which I don't have in front of me. I must have left it in my home theater room because I just compared it before I shot this video. So we are going to compare the differences here between this 4K UHD release and the Blu-ray version. And as usual, I have screenshots to compare the differences and see the improvements. So let's get started. This is hands down the best Akira has ever looked in every way, shape, or form from any previous home video release. Color reproduction is extraordinary. Primaries are bold, vibrant, and crisp. Contrast is also excellent, and saturation is nicely balanced. The HDR Dolby Vision grading makes this a powerhouse for animation. It's amazing how rich and striking all the colors are that really pop. Especially primaries. Reds are now bright cherry red, blues are more apparent, yellows are richer. Other examples are such as the motorcycle headlights or the energy beams from the weapon used later in the film. There are also many more nuanced shades to the colors. The black levels are a deeper, inkier black with nice silky shadows and shading that draw out more depth and details and makes the colors pop even more, even within the darkest spaces. The climactic finale looks extraordinary with multiple array of different colors and flashing lights that ignite the screen. This is a great example of how to use HDR to only enhance the film without ever losing the integrity of the source material. The image is also razor sharp. The English subtitles are crystal clear and much easier to read than the Blu-ray. And now we can make out all the details and fine lines and background activity that was never apparent before. I mean, a great reference point of this is there are a lot of parallax background effects throughout the film that the Blu-ray and any previous home media release always struggled with, and you really couldn't see very clearly without pausing it. This 4K fixes this issue and really enhances all the detail and background details and finer details, such as the graffiti in the backgrounds and on walls, elements like broken glass, textures in brick walls, cracks and lines on sidewalks and streets. The movement of animation, especially during the bikers race through the city, is one of the highlights of this 4K. The animation team added so many different levels of movement, from hair, clothing, and background elements, that really gave the viewer a sense of speed and motion. And now with this 4K, we have a much truer sense of speed and dimensionality to these movement sequences that look outstanding when comparing to the Blu-ray. So the grain structure is still intact and there with a really nice fine level of grain that really helps give the image even more depth and has a beautiful filmic appearance to it, something that the Blu-ray really suffered from. That was plagued with very inconsistent grain structure. Now, as for the audio, unfortunately, unlike Ghost in the Shell and Heavy Metal, we didn't get an Atmos mix with this one, which is a huge disappointment. There's so many sound effects and music going on in this movie that it would have been great to fully utilize the soundtrack. But what we do have here is a Dolby True HD Lossless 5.1 mix and the stereo mixes, both in Japanese or English dubbed. Now, the 5.1 mix is definitely the one to go with that has impressive dynamics and clarity. The music score is robust sounding and open. The surrounds are aggressively active with a lot of engagement to what's happening on the screen. Low ends are also great sounding with a lot of bass rumble and activity in the subwoofers. Dialogue is razor sharp, and music nor sound effects drown out any of the audio or dialogue. So I'm giving the 4K UHD presentation of Akira a 4.5 out of 5 for the video and audio. I knocked it down half a peg just because it does look a little soft here and there at times. It might be inherited, which it probably is, but still it's a great looking 4K UHD presentation that's definitely worth the upgrade. But head over to the comment section and let me know, when you look at the differences here between the Blu-ray format and the new 4K UHD format, which do you think looks better? Or do you see any comparison at all? Again, head over to the comment section and let me know. Well, that concludes our anime comparison trilogy with Akira. As always, keep physical media alive, and we'll see you next time.